Curse you, OneDrive. I don't even use you. Where are the settings to keep you from opening up? Anyway. This is Cheese of Ages here, making another video in my usual vein of make a video on whatever I fucking feel like, rather than just like sticking to one type of content. And again, that leads us back to League of Legends content. And once again, this is invoked by a Reddit discussion that happened a couple of weeks ago, around when they first announced the Xin Zhao buff that was stupid as fuck that they put on the PvE. It's been in the game, and they're nerfing the shit out of it. Honestly though, Riot, everybody knows Xin Zhao needs to be reworked, because you can't buff him and without creating these kinds of situations, and he's boring as fuck to play. There's a situation where he's so strong right now, pre-nerfs, that you either gotta ban him or pick him, even if you don't want to play him. But anyway, the discussion on the Reddit was people were complaining that Xin Zhao getting both a free crit and a free heal on his W when it's activated pretty much makes him Aatrox but better in every way. And then there was a battalion of complete brain-dead idiots, idiotic to the magnitude of they think that they go through doors by walking into them and slamming their heads into it until they've beaten themselves to death, kind of stupid, that don't understand what a gray area is. They think that, okay, if you're saying they're similar, you're saying they're mirror images of each other. And they're completely different if they have minor differences between them. I don't care if his W isn't active all of the time as a toggle between the two. I don't care if, okay, Aatrox uses his W to either pick between hurting himself to damage or having a heal. If Xin Zhao gives the same damage and same heal when he activates it for a short duration, that is usually up pretty much most of the time. Xin Zhao has a cooldown, but it's so minuscule, he pretty much always has it. I don't care if there's a minor difference if they are functionally pretty much identical, except one is superior in pretty much every way. If it does the same damage and same healing, but you get both at the same time and no damage cost, it's better and similar. It's not completely different just because one toggles between two and is always on, compared to something that is practically always on and gives both. And I don't care that, they both have knockups, but one is on an AoE and their initiation, while the other one is on a fourth auto attack on a damage increasing thing. I don't care about that. They both have the same CC, and they both have a gap closer, and both generally have the same attack pattern because their kits function, just core functionality, is so similar. There are differences. I mean, Aatrox has a pretty much completely useless and nearly impossible to hit skill shot line attack that slows, while Xin Zhao does not. Xin Zhao has an ultimate that knocks everybody he hasn't auto-attacked around away from him. While Aatrox has his attack speed steroid that Xin Zhao has on his W on his ultimate instead, and it also does AoE damage, but doesn't knock away. I don't care about these minor differences. The sheer simple fact that they are similar champions... let me backtrack a little bit. They have similar moves used in similar ways. This equals similar champions. It does not... saying that does not mean they're the same champion. You can have similar champions with you can have very similar moves with very similar playstyles and not be the same champion. Minor differences does not make their playstyles or their nature as a champion or their job on the battlefield completely different. That's not how it works. That's not reality. They're not completely different champions. They are similar champions because they have similar abilities used in similar ways. They have virtually the same attack patterns and virtually the same job on the battlefield. Obviously, another idiotic discussion of this was like a completely and utterly wrong in every conceivable way breakdown of the differences between Jinx and Caitlyn when I brought up the fact that pre-rework Caitlyn had that same problem with Jinx. Anyway, let me break down. I can't give you a breakdown of how like incorrect the post was because then I would be here for another 30 damned minutes. But things were like, oh, Caitlyn's kit was built for kiting. Oh, really? You mean like every ADC is supposed to be kiting? You know, we're talking about Caitlyn here, not Callista. There's nothing about Caitlyn's kit that is about kiting any more than any other ADCs are. While they say like Jinx's was built for chasing, even though there's really nothing in her kit for chasing other than the fact that she can throw her traps out faster. You know, and the fact that her passive, like, if she kills one, she's better at chasing down another. That's not her entire kit being built around chasing, and even if it is, it doesn't change the fact that there's similar champions with similar playstyles used in, like, with similar abilities. Pre-rework. They still have similar playstyles, but there's actually a little bit more to distinguish them after the rework. For one, Caitlyn's traps now suck, but we'll get back on that at another point in time. But anyway, let's break down what are similar between Caitlyn pre-rework and Jinx. Okay, Caitlyn has a really long auto attack range, while Jinx has the normal auto attack range normally. This person's saying, oh, Jinx is a mid-range champion, while, like, Caitlyn is a long-range champion. Going by the most predominant build for Jinx in leveling order, Jinx has pretty much the same auto attack range as Caitlyn at level 4 when she's switched to rockets, which the mana cost very quickly becomes a non-issue later in the game, but you could still use the same play pattern Caitlyn has of popping minions and then slinging out an auto attack with Jinx's rockets. And past level 4, because usually you max Q first on Jinx, Jinx has longer range than Caitlyn on her auto attacks when in rocket form. So that's a complete and utter fallacy that Jinx is a mid-range champion and can't do everything that Caitlyn can playstyle-wise in that regard. They also both have a very similar shaped in size before the initial impact of Caitlyn's like thing. Very similar in shape and hitbox. Line skill shot used for harass in lane with a pretty much identical wind-up. Caitlyn's has the advantage of being able to pierce through minions and doing AoE damage when Jinx's is single target, but they're pretty much used in very similar ways for the exact same functional purpose. Long range harass in the lane and like sieging with long range harass. They're both very similar moves with the exact same function and pretty much identical playstyle, although there's minor differences. Also, they both have a trap that can be used to zone enemies. Mind you, Jinx gives the advantage of being able to deploy it faster and it arm faster, and also covering a much larger area, generally being superior in every way, except the fact that it can't do for long-term, like, strategic placement. Giving her more, but Jinx has more options in the fact that she can throw them behind the enemy or throw them in front of the enemy to zone in more respective ways. Her traps are still for zoning, which are still as Caitlyn's traps are for zoning, and they both have identical CC. A minor difference in the playstyle is Caitlyn's is more of a long-term setup than an immediate setup. But generally speaking, Caitlyn players with the right support would chain their traps to the CC just like Jinx does, because both of them can do that. Jinx would throw the traps onto a CC'd enemy to chain that CC to the root, because the arming period would usually arm during the CC and then proc. Caitlyn would do the same thing. Similar moves with similar play patterns. Caitlyn's isn't as good at this anymore, but we're not talking about the shit storm that is post-rework Caitlyn's traps right now. But yeah, very similar playstyle still. Also, their ultimate is used in the situation in which you can't attack the enemy with anything because they've slipped away from you with a sliver of health. Long range execute ultimate. That can be blocked by an enemy champion. Mind you, Jinx has the advantage of being an AoE, so if the two enemies are close together, it's harder to block it. But it's a skill shot. But it also has the advantage of being tremendously longer range, like global, rather than Caitlyn's really long range, but outranged by Jin's pretty much everything. But anyway, yeah, Caitlyn's is a lock-on that it targets differently, but it serves the same functional purpose and has a very similar playstyle when you use it. So yeah, I've illustrated all the differences in their kits and pointed out all of the ways in which they're used in the same way. Now, Jinx can do a whole bunch of extra stuff that Caitlyn can't do. But doesn't have. The only advantage Caitlyn has is long-term strategic placement of traps. Everything else Jinx does better. Including her AoE, though it's a skill shot and not a lock-on, is still significantly enough better than Caitlyn's ultimate to be just better in every way. And her Q isn't as easy to hit as Caitlyn's Q, but does a little bit more damage. But they still have very similar playstyles, but Jinx can be used in more ways, and scales much better, because she doesn't have an attack speed nerf that they put on Caitlyn to make her more sniper-like. So yeah, pre-rework Caitlyn was pretty much just worse Jinx. And to a slight degree, she's still pretty much just worse Jinx. She has her advantages. I mean, she has a slightly stronger, 1 to 3 than Jinx does. But Caitlyn relies on making her counterpart not scale. She has to be a lane bully, and if she can't be a lane bully, she falls off really hard. Jinx is a hyper carry, but can do all of the same things at level 4 and beyond that Caitlyn can do. I wonder, similar champions, similar playstyles, with similar moves. And guess who I've mentioned it a couple of times, but they freaking had a field day with my statement of that, about them being having similar moves that could be used for similar playstyles, resulting in them being similar champions, they're completely different. They have no similarities at all, because these reasons that clearly demonstrate I don't understand how either of the champions actually work, or any of the basic ADC mechanics, because I think one thing that is true to all ADCs, including Jinx, is apparently something Caitlyn herself is exclusively built for. Yeah, just because her net gives her the ability to take 3 steps backwards. And Jinx doesn't have a net gun that makes her take several steps backwards. Never mind the fact that her traps are better for defensive use than Caitlyn's traps are. Yeah. I'm a retard. Why is this door not opening? I'm walking through this doorway. That's what you're supposed to do. Why am I bleeding? I should keep walking into this door because that's my intelligence level. Why am I dead? Oh no, I've beaten myself to death. Fucking stupid asses. Anyway, me doing annoying voices aside, that's my freaking opinion on that discussion that was on Reddit. Xin Zhao is right now pre-nerfs Atrox, but better in every way. They're not identical, I mean, Atrox has some advantages that Xin Zhao does, but Xin Zhao does everything he does better. And freaking Caitlyn's traps need to be bigger. Have a slightly, just a hair bigger trigger range. I'm so fucking sick of my traps being completely worthless. I'm tired of doing the exact same things I did pre-rework and it not doing anything. I need 2 traps to do what 1 used to do. So I have to max it second, or I don't have as many traps as I did pre-rework. Yeah. Anyway, Jinx was better Caitlyn, but now Caitlyn has her own strengths and weaknesses, and has improved scaling compared to pre-rework. I'll give it that. But Jinx is still generally superior in pretty much every way. And yeah, they still have similar playstyles, generally speaking. Although the problem was helped considerably by the rework. You can still generally, if you played Caitlyn, pick up Jinx easily, and vice versa. And that's an issue. But anyway. And no, I'm not hearing nothing about how Caitlyn is one of the easiest marksmen in the game to play. She does not have any advanced mechanics to her, really. I'll admit. There's no skill cap to anything except maybe making the traps function. And properly, there's not a hell of a lot of complexity in her kit compared to some other ADCs. But she's not a simple champion to play, because you're either shoving the fuck out of your enemy and denying them freaking farm by pushing the fucking lane like a lane bully and being too far ahead, or you're outscaled. You gotta put yourself in a vulnerable situation with very few escapes, even considering the net gun, because you're so squishy, or you just don't win the game. She's not a hard ADC by any stretch of the imagination. She's better than a few ADCs that are in the game, and a lot simpler than a lot of ADCs in the game, but she still has playstyle complications that make her difficult to play. But anyway, the scaling issue isn't as big of a problem as it used to be, but it's still there, and they shifted the frustration from that to the traps not being worth anything if you're playing against an opponent that has a brain cell. But yeah, anyway, this is going to be Cheese of Aegis signing off.